Hello, you are listening to Just Films and That. This is the podcast where we talk about films we think might be underrated, underseen, or we just wanted to talk about them. I'm Josh Hallam and I'm joined as ever by the wonderful Alice Oliver. Alice, how you doing? You all right?
Very well. Thank you, Josh. How about you?
Yes, I'm very good. Thank you. Very excited as we normally are when these things happen. Very excited,
Absolutely buzzing. I was quaking in my chair. I'm so excited for this one.
Quaking in your chair.
Quaking in my chair. There you go. And I don't just say that for anybody.
I'm talking to us about, of course, has been excited to welcome another fantastic guest on the podcast. We are joined by the fantastic comedian Vittorio Angelone. Vittorio, how you doing, man?
Hello, I'm doing all right. We were talking about my housing stress, but I'm glad to be not thinking about that.
There you
right
go.
now.
We'll give you an hour's break of that as we chat
about
it.
So the film we've chosen is the indie film Housing Stress from 1995. No. So sorry, obviously, if people don't know you, you're a stand-up comedian. What have you got going on at the moment?
I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm about to embark on my first tour. We announced a bunch of dates. They all sold out, which is mad.
Well done.
So we're adding a bunch of dates as of February, so that they'll be announced and on sale on my website. Good luck spelling my name.
Is that UK and Ireland? Is it?
Yeah, UK and Ireland. So we're all around. So if you're in either of those places and you live anywhere near a big city, I'm not coming to your little.
No, why
village.
should you?
People keep asking, Are you coming here? No. That's insane. Live somewhere better. What are you talking about?
If you're not in Manchester, Birmingham, or London, I'm sorry, but it's not happening.
There's like 34 dates on the tour, and they're like, "Why aren't you coming to Skittlesbury?" And I'm like, "Where's that?
Why aren't you playing the Village Hall? What's the most remote place you're going?
It's got to be like Limerick or somewhere, but that is a city.
Yeah.
Like it's quite a big city. I'm trying to think Southampton, Cambridge, Bristol, Cardiff,
Cardiff.
Aberdeen. I'm going that. Sorry, I'm going.
That's fairly. That's pretty far north.
Far as fuck.
Well, make sure you get your tickets. As Vittorio says, it'll all be on his website, but we'll put links on out when this episode comes out. Anyway, we always start these episodes with a completely random question. I'll come to you first, Alice. This is from the guys. We put this out to the listeners. This is from the guys over at the Beheaded podcast, and they ask if you could have any type of condiment come out of your belly button, what would it be? Just a fairly normal question.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm always thinking when I'm eating chips, I'm like, damn it. If I
could just press my belly button?
I had some mayonnaise and ketchup just coming out of the orifices on my body. So I hate this question because it grosses me out, something rotten. But I guess if I had to answer, I mean, I love ketchup, fucking basic bitch over here. And I think in terms of like hygiene and cleanliness, that's not a bad one to pick. I think if you chose mayo, that's going to get pretty fucking disgusting pretty quickly, right? But ketchup, not as disgusting.
Because it'll go off, you mean? Because it'll go off.
Exactly, yeah. Imagine the fucking stink.
But presumably if you could generate this condiment, it'd be like Spider-Man's web, so like it would always just be generating, it wouldn't go off, would it? Otherwise, what's the point?
I see. You've thought about this, Josh.
Of course I have. Who hasn't thought about this question? You're lying awake at night, you can't sleep.
If I could. I'll go with ketchup. I feel like it's slightly, because I do like ketchup and it's not as disgusting as mayonnaise might be. What about you, Josh? If you could squirt any condiment.
If I could squirt any condiment out of my body,
reminds me a bit of basketball. This, like, if you're going to do a psycho, like fucking mayo coming up the belly button. Yeah,
it wouldn't be ketchup because, as you know, I hate ketchup. It's the worst thing mankind's ever invented.
Oh, whoops! Sorry,
I can't stand it.
Forgot about that.
I've always hated it. I don't know why. I can't. I'm one of those people. Like if it's accidentally put on my plate and it touches my food, I'm like, I can't. I have to.
You ate baked beans as well, don't you? And they're just like swimming in tomato sauce.
Exactly. So, maybe they're linked. I don't know. I've always hated ketchup. I've always hated baked beans ever since I was like a baby.
Like tomato soup?
No, not tomatoes. No. I like tomato soup and like pesto and bolognese and all that. It's just
how inconsistent of you.
I know it is inconsistent. I should have nailed my colours to the tomato flavoured mast, shouldn't I? But no, I just didn't. I don't know why. Because I don't mind it.
Are you a big gazpacho
Yeah, I'm always. I love my cold tomato soup. As soon as I sit in the restaurant, have you got any gazpacho or what? Come on, get it out. Shouldn't need any prep time. It's cold. So I've always hated ketchup. Can I have? So is like a pickle or a chutney a condiment, or are we talking just as sauces?
No, chutney for sure. Yeah.
So I probably have in that case lime pickle.
Oh, I fucking love lime pickle.
I love lime pickle. Yeah,
delicious.
Because
Is that not gonna
I suppose
sting?
it would sting, wouldn't it? It's like salt and
it's like, yeah.
Very acidic. It's very acidic, and
it's like the salt and vinegar crisps,
anyway,
isn't it? Yeah. Maybe not then. I don't know. Let's just say, I'd have either lime pickle or like just chutney, just like caramelized
Certain to go on your
chutney.
poppadoms, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Big poppadom
And then you could just
guy.
be at the Indian, you're already bloated, shirt open with the lads. You know it is. You know it is, and you just.
I hate this question so much.
Yeah. Another pint of Cobra, please,
Chutney out of
mate.
you, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh gosh.
You know it.
Chutney out of the belly button.
What about you, Vittorio?
Well, I've been trying. So, is it that you can on command?
I guess so.
Or
yeah.
is it constantly?
Oh,
No,
God.
I'd say it's
I
on
assume
command.
I think, like Josh said, sort of
You would hope on
Spider-Man web
command.
rules. I think that makes the most sense.
Right. Okay. Then I think. Right now, this is going to be mad, and you might say it's not a condiment. Is Cadbury's chocolate spread a condiment? No.
So what? I don't know. What's Cadbury's like Nutella?
It's like Nutella, but I
know the one you mean.
I wouldn't initially think that's a condiment, like in the same way I wouldn't think that jam is. But I mean, anything can be a condiment.
I hate jam. Don't talk about jam.
Okay, so no jam, no tomato ketchup. All right, well, I'll
jam.
Keep quiet.
I hate jam. Any cooked fruit except tomatoes. We're the opposite. Any cooked fruit except tomatoes, I'm not on board. I don't like apple crumble. I don't like apple pie. I don't like jam. I don't like Jaffa cakes. I don't like jammy Dodgers.
Whoa.
I hate it all. I used to go to kids' birthday parties. No, when I was a kid, not like now. Can I clarify that? But I don't.
As you get in your party bag at the end, it's just got fucking jam in it. I swear to God.
Well, no, this is the thing.
Take it back.
The cake, because they always had jam in the middle, so I would get my mum to cut the jam out of the middle of the cake.
What about so are you a custard donut guy?
I hate custard. Don't talk.
Wow.
Just ring donuts then.
Yeah, I love just sugared ring donuts. I think they're class.
So we got chocolate spread then, ketchup, and then lime chutney for me. Lime pickle.
But I feel bad. I feel like I'm gonna get some stick for saying chocolate.
Well, what about a
spread's condiment.
savoury
I don't
one
think
then?
that's a condiment.
Could you pick a savoury?
Like a savoury one? I mean, I'm a fan of 1,000 Islands.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Which is rogue because it's not very
It's
applicable
not-
to a lot of things, but I do think
when-
1,000
Oh,
Islands.
When
is
it
good.
comes up, yeah. Nice.
I worked at Subway when I was just a student, and that's the one we always got. You get to the sauce. What sauce? Thousand Island. It's not America, mate. We don't have Thousand Island. And then because
Am I wrong?
well, this is 10 years ago.
In Tesco, it's
No, I
1,000
mean in
Island.
Subway.
On
In
the 4-pack
in
of
Subway,
dips.
I don't think they do Thousand Island on the sauces.
They don't.
So I once said to him, he went Thousand Island. I went, we don't do it, and he went, what if I go and get some? And I went, yeah, if you want. And I had to put his Subway to one side, and he came back, jumped the queue. I was like, don't worry about this guy. He's just a weirdo, been to buy his own sauce. I'm just gonna put it on. And then I had to put
That's so
Thousand
funny.
Island on his £7 sandwich or whatever it
There
was.
you go.
That's so mad. I remember I had a friend who worked at Subway, and he said he used to get these real idiots come in who didn't know what anything was called. They would walk in and they would go, you go any salad, and they go, I give us onions, tomatoes, salad. And when they said salad, they meant lettuce.
I once had a guy come in, big, massive bodybuilder type. I think he was obviously looking for a protein kick, and he goes, "Foot-long meatball, please, mate. Double meatball." So I had to give him 16
Meatballs one
meatballs.
of the few things you really can't double up on that. It's quite a fixed
16
number of meatballs that fit into the thing.
We got to the salad. I went, what do you want? And he went, everything, as much as you can get on it. And then I came to close it, and he just looked at me, and he just went, just give it to me like that. And then he just went and ate it with a knife and fork. Because
that's just somebody trying to up their calories.
We were just
That's
looking at
mad.
each other like, we both know this isn't going to close, mate. Why? Like, there's no way. Like, why are you looking at me like I could even shut it? But
at least he was good about it. There's that Bo Burnham song. I don't know if you've ever heard it about when he's in
About the burrito. Yeah.
Wouldn't have got
It
that.
would have fit. Would have got the cheese if it would have fit. Well, you are the first person to come on this podcast who knows what I'm talking about when I say Bo Burnham. I fucking love Bo Burnham, and I'm buzzing that you brought it up, to be honest.
Okay, let's move on to talking about this week's film then, which is The Guard from 2011. Now, Vittorio, you chose this one, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's about and why you picked it? Is it underrated? Is it underseen? Let's hear it.
So it's about a police officer on the west coast of Ireland near Galway, and he's kind of jaded. He's a bit miserable, but like joyfully miserable. It seems quite Irish. There's a real, like, he just revels in how shit he thinks everything is. And he just like complete nihilism of like nothing matters. So I'm just going to piss everybody off and it's just fine. And then Don Cheadle comes over and he's this big, like, American. Is he FBI? Yeah,
FBI or CIA, one of those two. Yeah,
well, he's not CIA because he corrects him. He
says,
not the I do know this film almost word for word.
Oh wow!
It's so my favorite. It's so good. It's all. I basically have like 4 or 5 films that I'll watch. Less so now because I've been very busy, but like once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right, once a month. Wow.
Yeah, and yes, I am currently on the waiting list to find out if I have autism, but that's a separate issue. So the 5 films, if you want to know, are like In Bruges, The Guard, Blues Brothers, Legend, which people think is a weird one to have in there. The 2 Tom Hardys.
Oh my god, we did that on the podcast. We did that
one. Film. It's such a good film. It's brilliant. And The Big Lebowski. Those are my 5.
What a selection.
That is a good selection. That is a good selection of films.
But anyway, so they kind of get into all these japes trying to chase down all this drug stuff. And it's kind of like almost the antithesis of like a buddy cop film.
Mm-hmm.
Like they fucking hate each other and they really come from very different worlds, like worlds colliding. And yeah, I just think it's wonderful, and I do think it's underrated because it's directed by Martin McDonagh's cousin.
It's his brother. It's his older
brother. His brother?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's his older.
Nobody gives a fuck.
Brother.
No. Nobody gives a fuck about John Michael McDonagh.
I think he did this in Calvary, didn't he? And another one more recently, but I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He's class, and it's just like everyone's like, "Oh, the other McDonough," and I'm like, I mean, I'm not begrudging. Martin McDonaugh is one of my favorite writers, directors. I think he's class, but I just think this has some kind of edge or bite or like a grittiness or like a realism to it. And it's probably literally just a lack of budget, but it's like there's something a bit like McDonough's now are so Hollywood. Whereas I think this on the west coast of Ireland has a real, and I haven't seen Banshees of Inisherin, but
no, I haven't seen it yet.
It just has a real, like, yeah, I just think it's fucking brilliant.
So I hadn't seen this when you picked it, and I thought it was Martin McDonaugh. And then I mean, it might as well looked at it. Yeah, and then I looked at it. I was like, oh, it's his brother. I didn't realize there was the 2 of them. To be honest, like no offense to John Michael McDonaugh, I'd obviously seen McDonaugh and thought it was him because I remember this coming out and it's been one that had been on my list to watch for a while, so I was quite excited to watch it. Had you seen it, Alice?
No, hadn't seen it, hadn't heard of it.
See?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, it could be underrated. I haven't seen that many films, to be fair, but it could be underseen.
Just the ones we've done on this, really.
Yeah, that's it. I don't watch any others. But I have seen Banshees, and I thought it was class. So, like, if you do get
I might watch it this weekend because it's on Disney Plus now, isn't it?
It is, and there is similar energy, I think, coming from the 2 films. You can sort of feel it a little bit,
in the west of Ireland.
Oh well, let's get into it then, Alice. So what did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I really loved The Guard. I really loved this style of film where you've kind of got this sort of witty, quick, and captivating and entertaining dialogue around what are some pretty grim and awful scenes. So like the lads dying in the car crash, or like the scene of the crime where the fella's been shot through the head. And then obviously bouncing off that then. So the script in this is obviously doing so much of the heavy lifting. Like the story itself, not that original and not that interesting, but it's the way that it's delivered to you is really entertaining. And it held up like throughout the whole of the film. Like there was no lulls for me. Like the sort of the quality of the writing was sustained throughout, and then obviously helped, I think, by some really great performances and really great direction as well. What about you, Josh? What were your sort of initial thoughts coming away from it?
I loved it. I thought
it's good, isn't it? It's just good, isn't it?
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I like everything you've just said there and more. I mean, the script for me, which we'll come on to, was the highlight. But the script, the performances, the look, the feel of the film, like Vittorio said, there is quite a like sort of like it's almost like an Irish sensibility to the film in that casualness and that nonchalance around what they do. Like everything's just every character in this is just laid back about everything.
They're completely bored by
they're just like
by
not
the most horrific thing.
Yeah, just not asked. Yeah, but by everything. So, so you watch this once a month, Vittorio. So when was the last time you watched it?
Oh God, it was probably
a month ago.
No, it's been a while because
really?
Hectic. I think maybe October, November time.
That's still pretty recent though.
Been a while, but like I mean, really, that opening scene of the
car accident.
NERD track. And he steals their drugs, puts it on his tongue, looks out onto the greyest west coast of Ireland sky and goes, "What a beautiful fucking day." It's just, I just think it's just incredible. I think it's just, and I've just remembered the soundtrack as well of like all the Western stuff. It's all like jump to get him, jump to get him, jump to get him, jump to get him, and it's just, it's just so it's so good.
It's a really well put together film, isn't it? Because like the look of it, the sound. One thing I was really interested in, they did a lot of good stuff with like color.
Yes.
So it's like, his house is really green.
Yeah,
and the police station's really blue. The diner's really red. There's a car that's like the orangest car you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, with the fella with the Pat Short, with the cowboy hat.
And then like you say, then at times he's looking off along all these beautiful landscapes, but it's just quite grey.
Yeah,
at times, and then like in his flat, it's the greenest house you'll ever see in your life. It looks like the Simpsons house or something, like the way that the walls are so bright. It's and that's obviously a purposeful choice. So I really enjoyed that. Like you said, it's written and directed by John Michael McDonough, and I think he's done an absolutely brilliant job. So, Alice, what else did you like about it?
So just touching off what you said then, in my notes, I pretty much wrote down word for word what you just said about the use of these really vivid and like block colours for the different parts of scenery. A lot of stuff going on with the lighting as well, with the internal shots, especially when we're in the bar. There's like this really stark sort of yellow and blue kind of alongside each other, but just really dramatic and really atmospheric. So just to go into the way it looked a little bit more. So it looks brilliant, but for a few different reasons, I think. So you've already touched on the landscape there. And there is, for me, I feel like there is some similarity between this landscape and the Welsh landscape as well. So, that always hits me a little bit harder as well. And I love this sort of scenery. It's really like really rugged and kind of sparse and really dramatic, even though sometimes it's not even really doing much. It could just be a simple shot of the scenery and it just feels dramatic, and I love that. Like you said, you've got some really stark sort of block colours going on there, which express some really interesting things. And then beyond that, so a lot of the action and the movement and the blocking was really interesting. So when Liam Cunningham's character, so he's like the gangster boss, isn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name is.
Is she?
Francis Sheehy Skeffington.
Is it? Yeah. So he phones the police station and he speaks to Jerry, doesn't he? And I think, is he phoning in the first murder? Yeah. Kind of basically saying, like, oh, this lad's been killed or whatever. And whilst we're seeing that phone call, he's walking across the frame, like he's walking in and out of the shot. The camera stays stationary and he's walking in and out, in and out. And I just thought that was a really interesting choice. And then you've got a lot of this going on throughout, where there's some real like intent behind where the characters are standing, how they're sort of next to one another. There's some really interesting, like it conveys some really different feelings about like power dynamics and stuff. And it all just felt really intentional and it all really immerses you into the film. The lighting, which I've already touched on there. This is the problem. See, I've got my notes written down here, but because Josh has already said everything that I was going to say, it's kind of like, I'm just repeating myself. But essentially, I just feel like the way it looks, it's so on purpose. Like nothing happens by accident from this. Every scene has been designed in a way to try and get you to feel something about what's going on, about the characters. And I thought that it was just really successful in doing so. I do find with this style of film, you've got to be really careful about making sure that everyone feels like they're in the same film, right? And that everyone is acting in a similar sort of way. So the inclusion of Don Cheadle in something like this, I thought was really interesting and could have potentially been a real risk because you don't want him to bring too much Hollywood to it because it might diminish what the other actors are doing. And it might end up being that the film doesn't convey the sort of feeling and the sort of mood that you hope to. But it really works and everyone works really well together. And I think the director has obviously had so much to do with that because if you brought someone in on this and they didn't understand the assignment and it would feel like they would just feel so out of place. Like if you accidentally sort of cast the wrong person or they just didn't understand what the script was trying to do, you'd feel like you've got like Tony Stark, Iron Man in the middle of this sort of different sort of action that's going on. So I love that. I love that everyone understood what to do and they all complemented each other brilliantly, I thought.
I think the McDonoughs are quite well known for demanding quite a lot of rehearsal time, whereas other directors just like get in and start filming. But I think they have like, because they come from a theater background, they're like, no, we're going to rehearse for 4 weeks and then we'll start filming. So I think that probably
that's interesting. Well, that shows, really comes across, doesn't it?
I think it definitely, just like you say, like, I don't know if John Michael McDonagh did, but Mike McDonagh definitely started as a playwright, didn't he? And he's done some quite successful plays, so that fits. And quite often you can tell with films, I think, is it Scorsese? He likes a lot of rehearsal time as well. And then some other ones you can tell, like, there are some films where you go, these people have never met. Or they're not even in the same room. They're not even in the same room at this point. But it doesn't show with this. And like you said, the Don Cheadle character, I think the way they play it so well is they sort of go, you're the fish out of water here. Yeah. But he doesn't completely overdo it. There are other films where, in less skilled writers, directors' hands, they put that in and it's just constant, like, disagreement or like winking at the camera. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I'm American. I don't understand what you just said.
Whereas in this, he plays it really subtly. It's just like, what? Like, I don't really understand, what's going on. So enjoy that. Let's talk about the script then, Vittorio. What, like, obviously you're in comedy. What do you think of it as a sort of dark comedy?
It's endlessly quotable. I think. I think there's just so many, but even like bizarre ones. And talking about those little like. It's quite a knowing film. Like it almost feels like it knows it's a film. And there's a bit where I don't know if it's in like the director's cut or something, but Mark Strong looks right down the barrel of the lens and goes, "I like sharks. I think
that's in the main.
Yeah,
one.
I did see. I definitely
right
saw
down
that,
the barrel.
Yeah, and they're at an aquarium, aren't they? And
he just soothing, and it's like, why did he say that to me?
So for me, I love the script, but I wrote some lines that I love down. There's one bit where he says he wouldn't hurt a fly, and Brendan Gleeson's character goes, he didn't. He put a bullet in his head. I like that bit. Yeah. There's a bit where he says where they're all arguing in the briefing room, and the sort of chief of police or the boss goes, "Come on, lads, not in front of the American."
I know. It's so
like nothing to do with that. He's an FBI agent, just not in front of the American. Don't let the American guy know what it's like. Like we're all bickering with each other. And then the bit where so in it, Brent, is it Jerry? Is it Boyle or Boyce? What's his Boyle? Isn't it his surname?
Jerry Boyle.
Yeah, Boyle. Yeah. Brendan Gleeson's character, anyway, his partner, who's only his partner, or his staff for one day, goes missing, and his wife comes round, and he's in, like, obviously he's in his pants and a dressing gown, and he goes,
into something less
let me slip into something less comfortable.
But then he puts on like this Hugh Hefner dressing gown.
I burst out laughing at that. Let me slip into something less comfortable.
The most irreverent like script in and around like a woman who's like lost her husband is in just going, great footballers, the Croatians. Or they used to be. And
it's just like you say, irreverent is the, because for me, as I've already sort of touched on, the script is the star of this, and this is how, for me, you do a dark comedy. Sometimes you do a dark comedy, and it's subjective, everyone has their own taste, but sometimes people will release something and be like, it's a dark comedy, and I think it's just dark. Like there's no actual comedy in it, but because they want it to feel edgy, they'll be like, it's dark, but it's a dark comedy or whatever. And I sometimes think, I'm not being as basic as to say it has to have jokes in it or it has to make you laugh, but I do think there has to be an actual element of comedy in there for it to be a dark comedy. And this does that in the way it's funny, but the subject matter is dark, and it it brings sort of levity to those heavier tones. And like you say, it's through that irreverent dialogue and through the fact that he's very sort of world weary and like not arsed and nonchalant about stuff. So I really love that. I really love that darkness, that sort of idea of the characters facing adversity, but just with a casual, like, nonchalance, like, oh, not well, whatever, it's just what happens in it, not bothered. Like, I love the red herring in it. So there's a red herring that one of the opening scenes is the character who's murdered, and later on when he's talking to the hitman or one of the gangsters, he's like, what was like the Bible bit and the number on the wall about, and he's just like, oh, just to confuse you. Like there's no it doesn't have a point. It's just like, why did you write 5 on the wall and why did he have Bible verses in his mouth? It's just whatever. Just
wait, what's the bit? What's the bit where he says in that when they go to that house and they're looking at the guy sat and he goes, his wife ran off with a fella from this place. I say ran off. He was in a wheelchair. He was one of them, what's the word? Spastics. The guy goes, I don't think that's the right word. And he goes, would you fuck off back to America with your fucking appropriate Barack Obama? Yeah.
It's so funny. Oh, I thought it was really funny, and that again, the script is then brought to life, like you say, by the actors. Brendan Gleeson is brilliant in this. Like, obviously, there's a great supporting cast, but I love how interesting Boyle is as a character. Like, he's gruff and hard and ignorant, won't change with the times, but he loves Disney World.
Loves
so the guy's like, oh, you've been to Disney World, and he's like, oh, this was last year.
Cool. I love Goofy. He's my favorite.
It's like, what did you go with? Like your family's like, no, on my own. Like, I love Goofy. He's my favorite. But
I love. There's a real softness to him as well.
There is, because there's the stuff with his mom and the storyline at the end.
Just
as well.
That bit of like the real, not delving into sentimentality at all in the script, where he's packing up her room at the hospice.
Yes.
And he goes, she was a good woman. She was my mother. And leaves the room. And it's just like, fuck. That hits so much harder than if he sat in the bed and cried. Do you know what I mean?
And there's like Coldplay on or something.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just really...
the realism is what hits home, isn't it? But no, I love it. Because what they do is they keep him grumpy all the way through. And at the end, so there's that sort of hint that everything he does is planned out, but also that it looks like he's making it up as he goes along.
Yeah.
So Don Cheadle says to him, doesn't he, I can't work out if you're really fucking stupid or really fucking clever.
And he just smirks
at the end, he just smirks. And then at the end, it shows it again. But you see him smile. And you're like, it looks so weird when he smiles, because all the way through the film, he has that gruff sort of demeanor. So when he smiles, it's a really straight, like, it's really strange, but affecting sort of part of the film. Because I love the
one other bit when he smirks, where, because early in the film, and this is where it's endlessly quotable, where he's like, I thought only black lads were drug dealers and Mexicans, mules they call them. But then later on, when he goes to the swim and then they're having their very different breakfasts, I really like that. He's having a black coffee with like a cube of sugar that he puts in his mouth, and it's very like,
he's got full Irish, just
dignified, and he's just like hacking away at tomatoes and just like going mad. And he goes, I thought black lads couldn't ski, or is that swimming? And then finally the American gets that he's joking, and he goes, how? And just a little glimmer out of Brendan Gleeson, and it's like, oh, good, he's actually joining in the fun now. That's good. It's just, I think that's a really lovely.
And they do bounce off each other really well in the scenes that they're together as well. Was there anything else, Alice? Anything else you particularly liked about it?
So you touched a little bit there on the music, but I thought the music was very good. For a lot of the time, there's like this sort of playful murder mystery music style going on, which I thought complemented the action really well. And then as we get towards the end, it's like this Western, like, and the whole thing starts to feel a little bit like a Western, but it's really atmospheric, really enhances the viewing experience. I love hearing the word gobshite in a film. How often do we hear that? We don't hear that very often.
Gobshite.
Gobshite. I was like, excellent, that's going on the list there. And just finally, I really love the relationship between Jerry and Don Cheadle's character, whose name escapes me. It kept saying Sergeant. He kept calling him Sergeant, and I don't know if his first name came up that often.
I can't remember.
but they go on a great journey together. And like by the end, like, and he seems sort of like, he actually seems genuinely sad when
That's
Wendell.
Yeah.
Is it Wendell? Is it? Yeah.
He interviews a horse.
Oh yeah. But I love them together.
Oh, and then they talk in Irish at the door of the thing.
Yes, yeah.
But they're just really sweet together, and they have a really nice journey. And he seems genuinely sad at the end when it looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
Okay, then, so let's move on to talk about things that we perhaps didn't like about the film or that we might change about the film. Now, I don't think this is going to be an extensive, long section, but let's see. Alice, was there anything for you?
Not really. So one note that I did make, maybe 3/4 of the way through, was like, oh, it's not particularly exciting. Like if you're looking for excitement, but then it ends with a shootout on a boat, and then the boat goes on fire. So I was like, well, that is exciting. And that was a pretty cool scene. So I don't actually have anything for this section, Josh. Wow. And I really tried. So this is rare, Vittorio, because we try to be really balanced. And it's like, oh, we're, try and find things that maybe weren't as great as the other things, didn't like, could change, whatever. I don't have anything. So it'll be interesting to see what you say, Josh, and maybe something you say will jog something in my mind. But no, I've got nothing to contribute to that section.
Okay, well, I only have one thing, but like I was really reaching, and you're like, I've got to say something.
Yeah,
got to be balanced. So mine was, I suppose they could have made more of Don Cheadle's character.
Okay,
like maybe he was a little bit underused in places because he is sort of just there to be the Boy Scout, but that's sort of neither here nor there. Do you know what I mean? It's such a tight film. It's only an hour and a half. They could have easily got another 15 minutes out of it. But then on the other hand, how many times have we talked about a film where we've gone, could have lost 15 minutes? It just dragged it out. So I don't know. I would have liked to have maybe seen more from Don Cheadle, but that doesn't necessarily, it's not even a dislike. That's like I would have liked as well sort of thing. But other than that, no, it's just such a well-made,
it's a very
meticulous
comedy. It's a very meticulous film. I think is a lot like it's great attention to detail.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's one scene that gets cut, and I only know it because some of the dialogue is on the soundtrack on Spotify, but it's not in the movie. I'm pretty sure it's not in the movie. I'm not sure. Maybe I've seen there are a couple different versions floating about, I think, but there's a scene that I think has been cut where he talks. He has like a meeting with his mum's doctor, and he asks what the prognosis is, and he says she seemed fine on the outside, and the doctor says, it's not about what's on the outside. It's about what's on the inside, eating away at you. And did you see that scene?
Yeah. He speaks to the doctor. It's only a very, very brief scene, but it's fairly early on. He goes
I think that gets extended slightly, but again, maybe that is just as long as it needed to be. It just seems to move on from stuff when it needed to move on from stuff, and it was just like it really doesn't dwell in anything.
No, it does. I mean, is there anything you don't like or that you change, or is this just like knockout for you?
I mean, it's really, really good. It's class,
and that's absolutely fine. That is probably, there's not many other films where we've had less to say in this bit, is there, Alice?
No, and like to really not really be able to bring anything to the table. That's happened one other time for me with Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. But
because you picked that though.
Of course, I picked it. Yeah, and it's one of my favorite films. But yeah, it's just a quality film. Like everything about it is quality and well thought out, and like you said, meticulously thought out. And there is nothing left up to chance, and everyone understands the assignment, and everything complements everything else, like the visuals and the audio, and everything just works really well together. And it's just it is a nice break to get this sort of film where the words are so important, and it's not about flash, and it's not about CGI, and it's not about like these big, massive jokes or these massive like action points or whatever. It's just a great film. Got to shout out as well, Mark Strong. This is now the 4th Mark Strong film, I think, that we've done, Josh.
Is it?
So he just pops up a lot. He's brilliant. I love Mark Strong. Want to see him in more stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the first one.
Have you seen Tar? Have you seen Tar?
I haven't seen it yet. No, is
it? Oh, is that the Kate Blanchett?
Yeah, Mark Strong's in that as well.
Is he? Yeah. Oh,
yeah. He's a proper chameleon. You almost don't recognize him and stuff.
He's in this as well, and there's just I love the random headshot where he's got hair.
There's always
they just went
put being in a wig.
Yeah, put a wig on him so it shows that it's in the past. It's like well, okay. Here's one for you then. Since there's nothing that we don't like about it, could you pick a favorite scene? Come to you first, Alice.
So sorry, I just jumped in straight away. So for me, it's definitely towards the end where the guy, I can't remember his name, but one of the gangsters breaks into Jerry's house and they're sat across from each other and have this conversation where he's like, am I going to shoot you? Am I not going to shoot you? And the guy's like, oh, I've picked something up. He's like scratching his crotch. He's like, oh, I've picked something up from one of these girls or whatever, like crabs or her or whatever it is. And then he pulls the gun out and then shoots him. I love that whole thing. Like, cause it's just two guys talking, you know,
that's
like
mine.
This really,
is it? Yeah. Because it's like brilliant. That bit is like a play.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it's like a two-hander. And the bit where he is dying and he goes, don't mock me. That feels like it feels like it feels like a play, doesn't it? It feels that's
are
almost
the lights growing dim, are they?
It's like that's like one of the most tragic scenes in the film. I love the bit where he says to him, why do I have to do it? Because you're a psychopath. I'm not a psychopath, I'm a sociopath. What's the difference? I don't know.
It's tricky, that one. Yeah, it's so funny.
What about
they're quoting. I love when they're quoting
all philosophers and Nietzsche and stuff like that in the car.
Nietzsche. Everybody says Nietzsche. He goes, God is there. Everybody knows that one.
Do you have a favourite scene, Vittorio?
I really like when Don Cheadle arrives and Brendan Gleeson is heckling him
at the briefing
at the brief, and he just has his hand up. You fellas are always saying street value this, street value that. Yeah. I do wonder, what street are you buying your cocaine on? Because it's a very different street to the one I'm buying my cocaine on.
Yeah, very good.
Lethal. And then the other one is when Aiden comes in and they're on shift, but Brendan Gleeson's just playing
the arcade. Get me a pint.
And I love how silly it is that definitely tees up later that he's a very good shot. You know what I mean? Like when he kneels down and like makes the shot from a distance. That definitely, like in my brain, I was like, oh yeah, because he was practiced.
But then he's another character who's only in a couple of scenes, but he's another one who they're all so casual about death. So like when he knows he's gonna die, he's walking off and they go, do you want to turn around or kneel down? And he goes, no, I'll just take it as it comes if it's all the same to you. Obviously knowing he's going to get shot in the back and he's going to die. And it's just very much like, no, I'd rather go out on my terms. You all right? Like,
and he goes, show you up for the cards that you are. And he goes, suit yourself.
Yeah. That's brilliant as well, though, because the moment when he realizes what's going to happen, because he's not obviously in the film that much, and I don't even know who the actor is, but you can see the change in his eyes when he realizes what's going to happen, because he asks them all to like get out the car. And then asks all of them for their ID, but they're not reaching to get their ID. No. And they're just being really casual, really like, chatting.
Get on
and it's
with
like
it,
he asks them again, like, oh, can you get your ID? And they make no move to get their ID out. And then that's when he realizes, oh, fuck, they have no intention of listening to me. This is the end. And you see the the change in his face. Oh, brilliant. So subtle, but really good.
One of the main points, because I looked at the actor, I can't remember, I think he's called Rory Keenan or something like that. Apologies. He's not listening, but if he is, apologies. But the main bulk of his Wikipedia page is that he's married to Gemma Arterton.
That's so funny.
That's what it's just like. Oh, and they're expecting their first child together. It's like this whole guy's career he's married to Gemma Arterton. But it's funny. It's just popped into my head, that scene there where he dies really reminded me of it could be like a Coen Brothers scene. Yeah. And that's funny because it goes back to what you're saying there. The 5 films you mentioned was The Big Lebowski, In Bruges, this
Blues
Brothers and Legend. So maybe not Blues Brothers and Legend, but the 3 that we mentioned there are all quite similar in their sort of sentiment and the way they are.
But they're all the same in terms of people having the most casual, mundane conversations in the face of absolutely, like the bit in the Blues Brothers when they're going up in the lift and the hundreds of SWAT teams and the army are all arriving and they're just going up in the lift. And when they're driving through the mall, like crashing through everything in the Blues Brothers and just chatting, we're like, oh, they didn't used to have that there. And they're like smashing through stuff. It's just that. And the same in Legend when they're like before they like kick the shit out of the guys, he goes like, you know that you gotta let it settle, and then he puts it down and then like fights everybody. And yeah, I think that's a real theme for me. If I just love really understated dialogue.
So your taste in films is people being calm and using good dialogue in the face of death.
Yeah. I just think that's the best. I think it's just like
on Netflix. Have you got any films
because you liked.
Well, it's just understanding that like when the action is high, you don't need intense dialogue like it does it itself, and understanding the opposite. That when there's
all of those films are very understated, aren't they?
Yeah,
very, very understated.
It makes me so happy that Legend is on that list because I picked that for this podcast.
It's so good.
That makes me very happy.
So, and people that think it's shit.
Yeah, Josh thinks it's shit.
I didn't think it's shit.
I had to fight it. It's underrated, though. It is underrated.
I thought it was decent, but like Tom Hardy elevates it to a better film.
Yeah,
they deserve lots of plaudits. I kind of stole their idea in my one of the promo things I did during the Edinburgh Fringe. Where have you seen their poster for that film?
Which one?
Have you seen what they did with the star reviews for the poster for Legend?
They had a 2-star in between.
I did that in Edinburgh. I had a 5 and a 4.5, but I stuck my head in front of the half.
Yep, very good, very good.
That's the way to do it.
It's so funny. It's just so funny. But yeah, I think those films are fucking brilliant. If you haven't seen any of them, get on. I mean, you have. You must have seen it.
I've seen all.
You know what? I haven't seen The Big Lebowski.
What?
I know. Maybe I need to get that on my list.
Talk about a good soundtrack. I
love the Big Lebowski. Is like one of my go-to. I've seen this so many times. I'm just gonna have it on whilst I do other stuff. And then I'll find myself watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the Big Lebowski. Yeah, and trying to think of in Bruges as well. The dialogue in that, the bit where they're talking about, I just love you're an inanimate fucking object.
You're an inanimate fucking object.
And the bit about all that's going to happen is your kids. Why are you bringing my kids into this?
Don't bring my cunt kids into
this. That's one of those films where if you want to see a different side of Ray Fiennes.
Yeah, it's
because
really,
he just absolutely he's loving what he's doing.
And Brendan Gleeson at one point goes, "The kid's suicidal," and Ray Fiennes go, "I'm suicidal. You're suicidal. We're all fucking suicidal. We don't fucking bang on about it."
Okay, then we can move on then to talking about the critical reception then, and then we can see if we think it is underrated, under seeing where we're at with it. So, Alice, have you seen any of the critical reception, or have you managed to avoid it?
No, I have managed to avoid it.
So the question is then, how do you think it did, and what would you give it, roughly?
So this is, for me, this is easily an 8. Definitely an 8. And I feel like surely it got that. Surely it got at least an 8, right? Surely. So I've got to go with that. So I'm going to say it got an 8.2 or an 82 because I think, I don't know how you could look at this and think it's not a good film in any way. Like I can't. So
yeah, even if it's not your thing.
Yeah,
you have to just be like, well,
Yeah.
it's nailed what it was going for.
Exactly.
Like,
it's so brilliantly constructed and delivered. So yeah, for me, 8.2, 82, that is what I would give it. And I think that is what it got.
That's what they got. What it got.
I think so.
Do you know, Vittorio, or do you want to
I'm not one for looking at reviews and stuff.
What would you give it, and how do you think
So is this Rotten Tomatoes critics?
So sorry, it's IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, both critics and audience, and then we sort of average it out.
I mean, I'm giving it like a 9.5, but
wow,
I think things don't get that. So
no.
Okay. Again, like if it is underrated, I'll be furious.
So let's have a look then. So I have to say, Alice, you are you are spot on.
I'm good
so
at
the time of recording, and this, I think this is going to boil some piss. This IMDb gives it 7.3.
Okay, that is low. That is low.
However, okay, the audience on Rotten Tomatoes give it 81%.
Very good.
The critics on Rotten Tomatoes, though, give it 94%.
Whoa!
They're always right.
So that averages out at 82% or 8.2.
Oh,
so for
hell,
me,
yeah.
I would say slightly underrated. I'd say this is a
wow.
solid.
Yeah,
This is
slightly
8.5, 9 out of 10 for me. I really enjoyed it. I'd definitely watch it again, and we don't always say that. I'd definitely watch it again. What about you, Alice? Is that underrated?
I mean, I've got to say that that's appropriately rated for me because it was bang on. But that IMDb score, I do think is
7.3.
harsh.
Yeah,
that
that's
is low
really
for
harsh.
this. Yeah,
We don't often get the critics outweighing the audience by such a margin, do we?
Well, the masses are fucking idiots, aren't they?
Just a review. If you don't like this, you fucking
I
idiot.
meet them every night. I do stand up.
Yeah, you know, you're there face to face. Face to face.
A video of you on YouTube in a couple of weeks just doing a gig. Who's in the guard?
Yeah. I've got a bone to pick with the majority of you.
Right. Who's been on IMDb and giving it this you? Let's have a... So the casting vote then, Vittorio, 8.82 or 8.2, is that underrated?
I think that's underrated.
There we go then. And for me as well, I would probably say, I reckon there's an element of this that's underseen. I don't know how it did at the box office, but I think it should be more widely seen.
I think it's definitely underseen, and I think it could definitely get like a bit of a revival now. I think sort of now that Banshees of Inisherin has come back, and obviously that's Brendan Gleeson as well, and it's sort of got similar vibes almost.
Yeah.
So I think if anyone listening has watched Banshees and liked it, go and watch this.
So is it similar to
this?
Is it?
It's just in the way, not the storyline necessarily, but the way it's been written, the way it's delivered. It's that same kind of sort of quite horrific things happening, but with this almost poetic and beautiful script that's going on. Do you know what I mean? But it's really good, and there is similar energy from the two of them. But yeah, I think this is definitely underseen as well. I hadn't even heard of it, and I don't think if it wasn't for this podcast, I don't know if I would have seen it.
People don't stumble across it. Like it's
they don't.
It's not out and about. Like it's just very.
But maybe if you have seen Banshees of Inisherin, maybe the algorithm or however it works. But the problem is this
maybe.
is, and if you do want to watch and you are listening to this, it's on Netflix. So get
it
like,
is on
get watch
The Guard
it.
is on Netflix because it wasn't a few years ago. I bought it on my Xbox. But it's good that it's on Netflix as well. If you're looking for more Brendan Gleeson as well, one of my other potential shouts for this podcast was a film called Cock-a-Milish, which is a 20-minute short film. It's in the Irish language. And Brendan Gleeson plays this blind guy on a train. And it's class. Like, really, really good.
What was the title of that?
Cock-a-Milish. So Cacamilis.
Is that like an Irish word, is it?
Yeah, it means like big cake.
Of course it does.
Cock-a-Milish.
But
there we go. Yeah, brilliant. All right.
Because I know when you were coming on, Vittorio, we were chatting a little bit about what you were going to pick, and then we settled on this. But you chose a couple of Irish language films. But we did. So Alice, if you didn't get from the Welsh comment before, Alice is Welsh, and have we done one or two? We've done a couple of Welsh language ones, haven't we, Alice? So Solomon and Gaynor was another
Solomon
one.
and Gaynor, which is sort of part Welsh, part Yiddish, and then part English as well.
Oh my God, it was hard to get hold of.
Wow.
So hard to get hold of. So what was that one called?
Cock-a-Milish. I've got it in front of me.
Well, we'll make sure people check that out.
Get it on. And then the other Irish language one, just to give it a plug, is called You Mingus Anam Dom, which is, I mean, you type in YU and then MING. It's just a really mad, like adorable film about a fella who's really depressed in China, and he spins a globe and points to somewhere, and he's going to move there to change his life for the better. And he points at Ireland, so he learns Irish.
Oh,
then
right.
he moves to Dublin, and then like fucking nobody speaks Irish. And there's a great bit. He walks into a pub and tries to like ask if there's any work going, like if he can apply for a job. And he asks in Irish, and the guy's like, I haven't a clue what you're saying. And then an old guy at the end of the bar like replies in Irish, and they have a little conversation. And the bartender goes, "Jeez, Michael, I didn't know you spoke Chinese."
That one, You Ming Isan Dom, got more on IMDb than The Guard did.
That's because it's got subtitles. That's cheap.
It's got subtitles. It's in for a high score. Well, there we go then. The Guard is underrated, and we think it's underseen as well. It's on Netflix. Give it a watch. I think It's definitely one to watch if you like a little bit of black comedy. Like Alice says, if you like the Banshees of Inisherin, In Bruges, I think this is definitely up your street. And Coen Brothers as well. I'd say it's up your street. So, Vittorio, is there anything else people can look out for? Obviously, we've mentioned your tour. Is there anything else people can look out for?
If you listen to this, you probably like podcasts. It launches literally tomorrow. It's called Mike and Vittorio's Guide to Parenting. Neither of us are parents. It's got nothing to do with parenting. We just think it's funny to call it that.
So then what is it about then?
Nonsense. It's just me and my friend Mike, who's from Kilkenny. He's also a comedian, and we just talk absolute shite. But it's really fun, and we're hoping to get some accidental listens from young mums.
Absolutely. Is that where, just wherever you get your podcast, that one?
Yeah, anywhere. And YouTube as well, if you want to jump on
Well, we'll make sure to give that a shout out, and we'll put links to it when this comes out. So thanks very much for coming on, Vittorio. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me.
There we go, another fantastic film from a guest in the underrated and underseen vault. What a great guest, what a great film, Alice, eh?
That was a good one. That was so much fun. That was a lot of fun.
Normally we have to pretend we like the guests in the films, but...
I know, yeah, but he made it easy. He made it easy.
Yeah, make sure you check out all the Vittorio stuff. We'll put links to it on social media and in the episode description when this comes out. Do check him out. There's loads of stuff out there on the social media and YouTube. It's well worth a look. He's very, very funny, and he's rising to the top very, very quickly and very well deserved as well. Anyway, Alice, it's that time again.
There we are.
It's your turn to pick next week.
Okay.
What we watching?
Well, I'm hoping this isn't going to be one where you've put your head in your hands, but this is going to be an interesting one, I think. So next week we're going to be watching Runaway Train.
Runaway Train. Okay. Okay. We'll say no more.
Okay,
we'll say no more. Join us next week then when we will be talking about Runaway Train. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, it's filmsthatpod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts, suggest films. We're always open to hearing from you. It's great to get in touch with listeners and stuff like that. Of course, we thank you as ever for your support. If you are interested in more content from us, extended episodes, bonus stuff, episodes a day early, you can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/justfilms and that. Yeah, we're also on the television, aren't we, Alice?
We are indeed. Every Friday from 6 p.m, you can find us on the local TV network. So if you live in Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds, Liverpool, or the north east of England, you can find us on Channel 7 on Freeview. Or if you live in North Wales or South Wales, you can find us on Channel 8 on Freeview. And you know what? Wherever you live, if you go on Dailymotion, and type in just films and that, I've been uploading the episodes to Dailymotion. So if you want to have a look at what we're getting up to on the local TV network, talking about all our favourite underrated and underseen films, you can find them all on Dailymotion. There you go. Thought I'd better plug that because I've been doing that for ages, Josh.
Well, there you go. Lots of ways to see us, hear us, check us out on social media. And of course, thank you to you for listening. Thank you to Vittorio for coming on. And thank you, Alice, for bothering to join me again for another episode.
You're very welcome, very welcome.
We'll see you next week. It's goodbye from me. Cheerio.
Bye.